The autumn sun cast long shadows across the cracked pavement as 7-year-old Tommy sat on the curb, his small shoulders shaking with sobs. In his trembling hands, he clutched the broken pieces of what had once been his most precious possession, a handmade wooden race car his late father had. Crafted for him 3 years ago, just weeks before the accident that took him away forever. The toy wasn't just wood and wheels. It was memory. It was love. It was the last physical connection to the man who used to lift him onto his shoulders and promise him the world. But now it lay in splinters, deliberately destroyed by the factory workers who had just pushed his mother to the ground when she'd tried to protest their illegal dumping behind their modest apartment building. Tommy's mother, Sarah, sat on the steps nearby, her lip bleeding, her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall in front of her son. She was a woman who had known hardship working 3 jobs since her husband's death, fighting to keep their small apartment, struggling to put food on the table while maintaining her son's innocence and hope. But this moment felt like the breaking point. The Riverside Toy Factory loomed just 2 blocks away, its imposing walls casting shadows over their entire neighborhood. For months, Sarah had complained about the toxic waste they dumped in the alley, the strange smells that made Tommy cough at night, the way the factory trucks barreled through residential streets with no regard for the children playing outside. Today, she'd finally confronted them, and they'd responded with violence. "Why, Mama?" Tommy whispered through his tears, looking at the shattered toy. "Why do people hurt us when we're already hurting?" Sarah had no answer. She pulled her son close, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces each, one sharper than the splinters of that wooden car. Neither of them noticed the distant rumble at first. But it grew louder, a deep, resonating thunder that seemed to shake the very air around them. Tommy looked up, his tear-stained face confused, as the sound intensified. Then they appeared. Around the corner, like something from a dream, came a formation of motorcycles. Not just a few dozens of them, their chrome glittering in the fading sunlight like armor on ancient knights. Leading the pack was a massive man on a gleaming Harley-Davidson, his leather vest adorned with patches that told stories of roads traveled and battles fought. His name was Marcus Bear Davidson, and he was a legend in these parts, though not for the reasons most people assumed. Yes, he looked intimidating with his gray-streaked beard, tattooed arms, and the kind of presence that made people step aside. But those who truly knew Bear understood that beneath that rugged exterior beat the heart of a man who dedicated his life to protecting those who could unprotect themselves. The Guardians Motorcycle Club wasn't your typical biker gang. They were fathers, grandfathers, veterans, and volunteers. They were men and women who'd seen darkness and chose to ride toward the light. They escorted bullied kids to school, protected abuse survivors, raised money for children's hospitals, and stood as a wall between the vulnerable and those who'd hurt them. And right now, that wall was rolling toward Tommy and his mother. Bear brought his motorcycle to a stop just feet from where they sat. The engine's rumble faded to a purr, then silence. He removed his helmet, revealing kind eyes that crinkled at the corner's eyes that had seen both beauty and pain, and chose to focus on the former. "Hey there, little man," Bear said softly, kneeling down to Tommy's level despite his intimidating size. "Rough day." Tommy nodded, unable to speak, clutching the broken toy tighter. Bear had been riding past when he'd witnessed the whole scene from a distance, the confrontation, the violence, the cruel destruction of a child's treasure. He'd made a single phone call, and within 15 minutes, every available member of the Guardians had answered the call, because that's what they did. They showed up. Mrs. Bear looked at Sarah with gentle respect. Sarah Mitchell," she managed, her voice hoarse. "They, the factory workers, they broke his toy. It was his father's, and they pushed me." Bear's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "Ma'am, nobody's going to hurt you again today. I promise you that." He turned to Tommy. "And Buddy, may I see what they broke?" With trembling hands, Tommy offered up the pieces. Bear examined them with the careful attention of a jeweler studying precious gems. His fingers traced the careful grooves, the hand-carved details, the initials TM lovingly etched into the bottom. "Your daddy made this?" Bear asked. Tommy nodded. Before he went to heaven. Something shifted in Bear's expression: pain, recognizing pain, loss, understanding, loss. "Then this isn't just a toy. This is a treasure. And treasures can be restored." He stood up, and as if by some unspoken signal, the other bikers dismounted. There was Ruby, a grandmother of 5 who ran a woodworking shop. There was Steele, a former Marine who now taught carpentry to at-risk youth. There was Doc, who actually was a doctor but spent his weekends fixing things and hearts in equal measure. Bear turned to face the factory, its windows now filled with faces watching nervously. His voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of justice. "We're going to take a ride to that factory. We're going to have a conversation about respect, about community, and about what happens when you hurt children and their mothers." He looked back at Sarah. "With your permission, ma'am." Sarah, who'd felt powerless for so long, felt something stir inside her. Hope, protection, solidarity. "Yes," she whispered. Then stronger, "Yes." What happened next became the stuff of local legend. The Guardians Motorcycle Club rode the 2 blocks to the Riverside Toy Factory with Tommy and Sarah in Bear's custom sidecar, a gleaming chariot that made Tommy feel like a prince despite his tears. The formation of bikes created a procession of power and purpose that stopped traffic and turned heads throughout the neighborhood. When they arrived at the factory gates, the manager, a balding man named who'd grown fat on cutting corners and ignoring regulations, came out with false bravado, flanked by the same workers who'd assaulted Sarah. "You can't intimidate us," Henderson blustered, though his voice shook. "We'll call the police." "Please do," Bear said calmly, pulling out his phone. "In fact, I already did. I also called the Environmental Protection Agency, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and a few reporter friends. See, while you were busy breaking toys and pushing around a grieving widow, I did some research." He held up his phone, showing photographs evidence of illegal dumping, safety violations, chemical waste in residential areas. Funny thing about the digital age? Evidence is everywhere. Henderson's face went pale. "But here's what's going to happen," Bear continued, his voice never rising but carrying absolute authority. "First, you and your employees are going to apologize to Mrs. Mitchell and her son. Sincerely, on your knees if necessary. The factory workers who'd been so brave when intimidating a woman and child now looked at their shoes. Second, you're going to clean up every ounce of toxic waste you've dumped in this neighborhood. Third, you're going to pay for any medical expenses Mrs. Mitchell needs for her injuries. Fourth," Bear paused, letting the moment breathe, "you're going to sponsor a community program we run for kids who've lost parents. In Tommy's father's name." Henderson opened his mouth to protest, but Bear held up a hand. "Or, option 2. These photos go public. The news stations arrive, and you explain to everyone why your factory is poisoning children. Your choice." "You've got 60 seconds. It took Henderson only 10. The apologies came awkward, stumbling, but present. The promises were made in front of witnesses, recorded on multiple phones. The Guardians had turned a moment of cruelty into a catalyst for change, but the real magic was still to come. That evening, as the sun set in brilliant oranges and purples, the Guardians transformed the parking lot of their clubhouse into something magical. String lights appeared, creating a canopy of stars. Tables emerged, filled with food, brought by the community members who'd heard what happened. Children ran and played under the watchful eyes of protectors who understood what it meant to guard innocence. And in the center of it all, at a workbench surrounded by curious onlookers, Ruby and Steele worked with careful hands to restore Tommy's treasure. They didn't just glue it back together, they reinforced it, adding brass fixtures that gleamed like gold. They sealed the wood with a protective coating that would last generations. They added a small plaque that read, "Built with Love by Thomas Mitchell Sr. Restored with Love by the Guardians MC. For Tommy, may you always know you're protected." When they presented it to Tommy, now clean, fed, and surrounded by people who'd shown him that the world still held goodness, his eyes went wide with wonder. The toy looked better than before, stronger, more beautiful. It was a metaphor he wouldn't fully understand for years, but that his heart grasped immediately. Broken things can be restored into something even more precious. "Thank you," Tommy whispered. Then louder, "Thank you." Sarah stood beside Bear, watching her son laugh and play with other children, showing off his restored treasure like it was made of diamonds. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why did you do all this for strangers?" Bear was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. 10 years ago, I was angry at the world. Lost my daughter to someone who hurt her when I wasn't there to protect her. Nearly destroyed myself with that rage." He looked at her. "Then I realized I could spend my life being angry at the darkness, or I could become a light for others. The Guardians, we're all people who've been broken. And we learned that the only way to heal our own wounds is to prevent others from getting them." He smiled, watching Tommy show his toy to another child with pride. "That little boy reminded me why we ride. Not for ourselves. For them." Sarah felt tears flow freely now, but these were different tears. These were tears of gratitude, of relief, of hope restored. The story didn't end that night, though that's where the fairy tale might stop. Real life continued, as it always does, with its mixture of triumph and struggle. The factory did clean up its act, partly from Bear's pressure, partly from the media attention, and partly from the community organizing that Sarah herself helped lead. She discovered a strength she didn't know she possessed, becoming an advocate for environmental justice in industrial neighborhoods. The Guardians adopted her and Tommy into their extended family. Bear became the grandfather figure Tommy desperately needed, teaching him not just how to fix toys, but how to fix hearts, his own and others. Tommy kept that wooden race car on his dresser, but he stopped being afraid to play with it. He understood now that love doesn't break, it transforms, adapts, and becomes stronger when community carries it together. And on certain Saturday mornings, you could find a small boy riding in a sidecar next to a large, bearded man, the rumble of motorcycles around them. As they headed to volunteer at the children's hospital, or escort a bullied kid to school, or simply ride toward wherever kindness was needed. Because that's what Guardians do. They show up, they protect, they restore. And they teach us that sometimes the scariest-looking people are the ones with the softest hearts, ready to ride toward justice when a child cries out for help. The wooden race car still sits on Tommy's dresser today. He's in college now, studying social work. And Bear, a little grayer, a little slower, still rides with the Guardians, still shows up when he's needed. Because broken toys can be fixed. Because push-down mothers can rise up. Because children's tears can transform into children's laughter. And because sometimes, when the world seems cruel and dark, all it takes is the rumble of thunder and the arrival of unexpected angels on motorcycles to remind us we are never as alone as we feel. And kindness, when it rides together, is unstoppable.